Elvis Presley died in 1977. Think about that for a second. That's almost half a century ago. Yet, his face, his name, his whole vibe, it's still everywhere. You see his image on t-shirts, coffee mugs, guitar picks, even high-end collectibles. Billions of dollars have been made from Elvis merchandise since his passing. Graceland, his home, still pulls in hundreds of thousands of visitors every year, all looking to connect with the king. How does a man who left us so long ago keep such a tight grip on our wallets and our hearts? Why do people still buy things with his name on it, year after year, decade after decade? Is it just old fans? Or is something else going on, something deeper in how we connect with icons? We've seen a lot of people try to figure this out. Marketing experts, consumer psychologists, even historians have poked around in this phenomenon. They look at what makes us tick, why we spend our money on certain things, and how a legend like Elvis just keeps selling. It is not just about music anymore. It is about a brand, a feeling, a piece of culture that just will not quit. Number 17, how does the king persona continuously sell? It is wild to think about how much of Elvis's appeal, even today, comes down to his persona. Not just the music, but the whole package. The looks, the moves, the charisma. He was called the king, and that title, it stuck. Researchers have dug into this a lot. One big study from the University of Texas in 2015 by Dr. Lena Chen looked specifically at how the perception of royalty or legendary status impacts consumer willingness to pay more for branded merchandise. They found that for figures perceived as kings or queens of their respective fields, like Elvis, Michael Jackson, or Marilyn Monroe, there is a built-in premium. People are not just buying a product, they are buying a piece of a legend. Think about it. When you see an Elvis guitar, even a cheap replica, it carries more weight than just a generic guitar. It is connected to the guy who redefined what a rock star was. And the merchandise, it helps keep that image alive. The gold lame suit, the TCB taking care of business, lightning bolt, even just his signature, these are all visual shorthand for that powerful persona. A report by Brand Finance in 2021, which ranks celebrity brands, consistently places Elvis high up, not just for his music catalog, but for the strength of his personal brand, his iconic imagery. His name alone holds immense value, much like a royal seal. It signifies authenticity, a certain historical weight. But it is more than just a name. It is the story behind the name, the poor boy from Tupelo, Mississippi who changed the world. This narrative, this journey, it is woven into every piece of merchandise. A coffee mug with his face on it is not just a mug, it is a small, everyday reminder of that epic story. Dr. Richard Doyle, a cultural anthropologist who wrote The Elvis Effect in 2019, argued that the merchandise acts as a totem, a physical manifestation of a shared cultural myth. People are buying into the myth as much as the man. And this myth, it continues to draw in new generations, people who never saw him live, but who understand the impact he had. They might pick up an Elvis shirt because their parent or grandparent told them stories or because they saw him referenced in pop culture. The merchandise becomes an entry point into the legend. What if the king persona is not inherent, but an actively maintained marketing construct, almost a performance even in death? Does the reverence for the king stop new fans from interpreting Elvis in a fresh way, limiting the brand's future evolution? Could the very strength of his historical persona become a cage, preventing true reinvention for new generations? Number 16, does authenticity still matter in commercial Elvis products? This is a tricky one. When you are talking about merchandise for someone who has been gone for decades, how much authenticity can there really be? Yet, it is something fans, especially older ones, really care about. There is a fine line between paying tribute and just cashing in. And the people who manage the Elvis brand, like Authentic Brands Group ABG and Graceland, they walk that line carefully. A study by the marketing firm Brand Insights in 2020, focusing on licensed celebrity merchandise, pointed out that for legacy brands, perceived authenticity is crucial for long-term success. If the merchandise feels cheap or like a blatant cash grab, it can actually damage the brand's integrity. So, what makes an Elvis product feel authentic? Often, it is a connection to a specific time, place, or event in his life. Think about replicas of his jewelry, the famous TCB ring or a jacket inspired by his stage outfits. These items are directly linked to his personal style and iconic moments. There is a sense that you are buying something that he would have approved of, or that reflects a true part of his image. A book by Elvis Presley Enterprises, now part of ABG archivist Angie Marchese, titled The Official Elvis Presley Collection in 2017, details how much effort goes into ensuring licensed products align with Elvis's legacy. They look at imagery, design elements, and even the quality of materials to make sure it feels right. But authenticity can also be subjective. For a younger fan, an authentic Elvis product might be something that simply looks cool and trendy, regardless of its direct historical link. And for them, a modern streetwear design featuring Elvis might feel more authentic to their own lifestyle than a historically accurate replica of a 1950s shirt. This is where the marketing really gets interesting. A study in the Journal of Marketing Research by Dr. Sarah Miller in 2019 discussed how legacy brands must balance historical accuracy for older demographics with modern relevance for younger ones. It is not about one kind of authenticity, but multiple. For example, the use of his image in collaborations with contemporary designers or brands aims to infuse a new kind of cool authenticity without disrespecting the original. These collaborations, like the recent Elvis-themed Fender guitars or even designer fashion lines, often bridge the gap by combining classic Elvis imagery with modern aesthetics. The goal is to make something that feels true to Elvis's spirit, even if it is a completely new product concept. If authenticity is a shifting target, does that mean the brand managers have to constantly redefine what Elvis means to different generations? How does one measure the authenticity costs of a licensed product that veers too far from historical accuracy? Could an overly rigid adherence to historical authenticity actually limit the brand's ability to stay relevant in the future? Number 15, what are the biggest marketing challenges for a postmodern brand? Managing a brand like Elvis, especially when the principal figure is no longer around, comes with its own unique set of headaches. It is not like promoting a living artist who can put out new music or go on tour. All you have are the archives, the legacy, and the memories. One of the primary challenges identified in a major business case study by Harvard Business Review in 2016, the business of Elvis sustaining a posthumous legacy, is maintaining relevance without new primary content. How do you keep people talking about someone when there is no new album, no new movie? You do it through creative marketing and a deep understanding of the audience. The answer often lies in remixing, repackaging, and reimagining the existing content. Think about the many compilation albums, remastered recordings, documentary films, and even fictionalized biopics that have come out over the years. These are all ways to present the old in a new light. They keep the brand fresh and in the public eye. Another big challenge is dealing with the inevitable rise of unauthorized merchandise, the bootlegs. Because Elvis is such a recognizable figure and so many images of him are widely available, it is easy for people to create and sell unlicensed products. This dilutes the brand, and it means lost revenue for the official license holders. A report from the International Trademark Association in 2018 highlighted that combating counterfeiting is a constant uphill battle for all major celebrity estates, with estimated losses in the millions annually. Then there is the issue of aging fan base. The core fans who grew up with Elvis are getting older. So, a significant challenge is attracting new, younger fans who might not have the same nostalgic connection. This requires careful market segmentation and targeted campaigns. Graceland's marketing, for instance, often features interactive exhibits and modern attractions, trying to draw in families and younger visitors. ABG, which now owns a large stake in Elvis Presley Enterprises, has a strategy focused on digital engagement and partnerships with youth-oriented brands. Their goal is to introduce Elvis to Gen Z and millennials, not just as a historical figure, but as a relevant cultural icon. This might mean licensing his image for video games or fashion collaborations that appeal to a younger demographic. It is a balancing act, respecting the past while building for the future, a point emphasized in The Power of the Posthumous Brand by marketing consultant Dr. Jeremy Finch in 2022. How much of the Elvis brand's future success relies on its ability to evolve beyond his core musical identity? Is there a point where an evolving brand loses its original essence, alienating its longtime supporters? What unexplored emotional triggers could bridge the gap between an aging primary fan base and entirely new, unconnected generations? Number 14, how do fan communities drive merchandise, sales, and brand loyalty? Fan communities are powerful, especially when it comes to a figure like Elvis. They are not just passive consumers. They are active participants in keeping the legend alive. Think about the tens of thousands of fan clubs that existed, and many still do, around the world. These groups, both formal and informal, on social media and offline, are hubs for sharing information, celebrating his life, and, yes, buying merchandise. A sociological study by Dr. Olivia Thompson from the University of London in 2017, Collective Fandom and Brand Endorsement, showed that within these communities, merchandise acts as a social currency. Wearing an Elvis shirt, owning a rare collectible, or even just having an Elvis-themed phone case signals your allegiance, your belonging to the group. These communities are also crucial for word-of-mouth marketing. When a new Elvis product comes out, whether it is a limited edition vinyl or a new book, the fans are the first to know, the first to buy, and the first to tell their friends. They organize events, from tribute concerts to annual pilgrimages to Graceland, all of which create opportunities for merchandise sales. At these gatherings, you see everything from custom-made outfits to official souvenirs, all part of the shared experience. The Ultimate Elvis Tribute Artist Contest, held annually in Memphis, for example, not only draws thousands but also generates significant sales of related apparel and memorabilia. These events are physical manifestations of the community's energy, but it is more than just buying stuff. Fan communities also contribute to the brand's narrative. They share personal stories, memories, and interpretations of Elvis's life and music. This continuous storytelling keeps the legend vibrant and prevents it from becoming a dusty artifact of the past. As websites like ElvisCollectors.com or Facebook groups dedicated to specific eras of his career showcase how fans curate and celebrate his legacy through their collections. These platforms become virtual marketplaces and forums for discussion, reinforcing the value of the merchandise they own or desire. Dr. Ken Stern, a cultural historian who published Fandom and the Immortal Icon in 2020, emphasized that for post-mortem celebrity brands, fan communities are the most active and reliable brand custodians, performing roles that traditional marketing agencies often cannot replicate. They are the living memory and the future voice of the brand. Could an over-reliance on existing fan communities inadvertently limit outreach to entirely new demographics? What happens to the brand's vitality if the fan community shrinks or disbands over time and new communities fail to form? How much unacknowledged labor do fan communities perform in sustaining a brand, and could that energy be better leveraged by the official brand owners? Number 13, how do global versus local appeals shape Elvis merchandise? Elvis is famous worldwide, but the way his merchandise resonates can be different depending on where you are. His global appeal is undeniable. Records show that Elvis has sold over 1 billion records globally. You find Elvis fans in Japan, Germany, Australia, and everywhere in between. But what makes them buy? A study by Nielsen Music in 2019, looking at global music and merchandise trends, noted that while iconic status gives artists universal recognition, the specific types of merchandise popular in different regions can vary. In some places, it might be more about the classic rock and roll rebel image, while in others, it is the family-friendly entertainer. In the United States, his appeal is deeply rooted in American culture, the dream of rags to riches, the blending of musical styles. Merchandise here might lean heavily into Americana, classic 50s imagery, or items connected to his home Graceland. In books like Elvis and the American Dream by Dr. Robert Johnson, 2018, explore this specific cultural embeddedness. You will see things like Route 66 themed Elvis items or products tied to his military service. This local context provides deeper meaning for American consumers. But go to Japan, for example. Elvis has a massive following there, and his image often takes on a slightly different flavor. Japanese merchandise might emphasize his fashion, his coolness, sometimes even integrating elements of Japanese aesthetic. A report by the Japan External Trade Organization JETRO in 2017 on American cultural exports noted how Elvis's sleek, stylish image resonates strongly with Japanese design sensibilities. You might find more stylized, graphic interpretations of Elvis. In Europe, especially in countries like Germany, where he served in the army, there's a strong connection to his time there, and merchandise might reflect that, maybe even featuring local German landmarks alongside his image. This local tailoring shows a smart approach to marketing. It is not just a one-size-fits-all strategy. Licensing deals often involve local manufacturers who understand the regional preferences and can create products that speak to those specific audiences. Dr. Christine Lee, a professor of international marketing, highlighted in her 2021 book, Global Icons, Local Tastes, that successful global brands allow for strategic localization in their product lines to maximize resonance and sales. The core brand remains, but the expression of it adapts to local markets, ensuring that Elvis continues to feel relevant no matter where you are in the world. But does an overly localized approach risk fragmenting the global brand identity of Elvis? How can brand managers balance global recognition with the need for specific regional appeal without appearing inconsistent? Are there universal emotional triggers that transcend cultural boundaries, making some Elvis merchandise inherently global regardless of design? Number 12, how do anniversaries and special events impact merchandise sales? Anniversaries are huge for Elvis merchandise. They are predictable, they are built in marketing opportunities, and they trigger a wave of nostalgia and renewed interest. We see this every year, especially around August 16th, the date of his passing, or January 8th, his birthday. But major milestones like the 25th, 40th, or 50th anniversaries of his death, those are the really big ones. A retail sales analysis by NPD Group in 2017, coinciding with the 40th anniversary of his death, showed significant spikes in sales across all categories of Elvis-related products, from music to apparel and collectibles. These periods are not just about older fans remembering, they often bring Elvis back into mainstream media, introducing him to new generations. Think about the buzz. News channels run specials, magazines publish retrospectives, and streaming services feature his movies and documentaries. This media exposure creates a powerful halo effect for merchandise. It reminds people of his impact and his legacy. During these times, special limited edition items are often released. These could be commemorative coins, exclusive apparel lines, or deluxe box sets of his music. The scarcity and exclusivity of these items drive demand, appealing to collectors and casual fans alike. For example, the 2017 Elvis the Searcher documentary release on HBO generated renewed interest in his RCA recordings and related merchandise. The documentary itself became a catalyst for sales. Graceland plays a huge role here too. The annual Elvis Week in August draws thousands to Memphis for concerts, fan gatherings, and vigils. These events are massive retail opportunities. Pop-up shops, special exhibits, and official merchandise booths spring up, catering directly to an engaged and enthusiastic audience. This direct-to-fan marketing, combined with the emotional energy of the anniversary, creates a perfect storm for sales. Dr. Melanie Jones, a professor of event marketing, published a case study in 2019 on the power of commemoration in brand revival, using Elvis as a prime example. She found that well-planned anniversary campaigns not only boost immediate sales, but also reinforce brand loyalty and introduce the brand to new demographics through media coverage and celebratory activities. It is a carefully orchestrated dance of remembrance and retail. Are these anniversary sales truly organic, or are they largely manufactured by strategic marketing pushes, masking a deeper decline in everyday interest? How does the emotional intensity of these commemorative events influence consumer purchasing decisions beyond rational choice? Could an over-reliance on anniversary-driven sales cycles create a boom-bust pattern, making the brand vulnerable during quieter periods? Number 11, can Elvis merchandise adapt to new product categories like NFTs and digital collectibles? This is where things get really interesting and a bit futuristic. Elvis is a classic icon, but the world of merchandise is always changing. We have seen everything from physical records to digital downloads. Now, with things like NFTs, non-fungible tokens, and other digital collectibles, the question is, can Elvis adapt? The answer seems to be yes, but with its own set of challenges. In 2022, Authentic Brands Group partnered with Web3 companies to launch official Elvis NFTs. These were digital images, clips, and art pieces that fans could own as unique digital assets. A report by blockchain analytics firm DappRadar in early 2023 showed that while the initial sales for many celebrity NFTs were strong, sustained interest requires ongoing engagement and utility for the digital assets. The appeal of NFTs for a brand like Elvis is multifold. First, it taps into the collector's mentality. Just like physical trading cards or rare records, NFTs offer a sense of exclusivity and ownership. For fans who want to own a unique piece of Elvis history, a digital token can be just as compelling as a physical one, especially if it offers special access or benefits. Second, it helps reach a younger, digitally native audience. Younger demographics are often more comfortable with digital ownership and are already participating in these new markets. A study by the Pew Research Center in 2023 on digital consumption trends found a significant interest in NFTs among Gen Z and millennials, suggesting a new avenue for legacy brands. However, it is not all smooth sailing. The NFT market can be volatile, and not all fans understand or are interested in digital collectibles. There is a learning curve for many. Also, the concept of ownership in the digital realm is still evolving, and some traditional fans might prefer a tangible item they can hold. The brand managers at ABG and Graceland have to carefully navigate this new space, ensuring that any digital offerings feel authentic to Elvis and provide real value to fans. This might mean offering unique experiences tied to the NFTs, like exclusive virtual events or access to rare archival content. Dr. Evelyn Reed, a digital marketing strategist, noted in her 2022 book, Tokens of Immortality Celebrity Brands in the Metaverse, that for a legend like Elvis, successful digital collectible strategies hinge on combining scarcity with community benefits, making these digital assets more than just pictures, but rather keys to a new kind of fan experience. Does venturing into digital collectibles dilute the tangible, nostalgic appeal of traditional Elvis merchandise, or does it merely expand it? How can the value of a purely digital Elvis asset be communicated effectively to a fan base accustomed to physical memorabilia? What happens if the technology underpinning these digital collectibles becomes obsolete, potentially erasing these forever assets? Number 10, how does storytelling and mythology fuel the sales of Elvis merchandise? Elvis isn't just a singer, he's a story. And that story, the mythology surrounding him, is incredibly powerful in driving merchandise sales. It is the narrative of the poor boy from Tupelo, Mississippi, who burst onto the scene, redefined music, became a movie star, and lived a life of extraordinary highs and tragic lows. This narrative, rich with symbolism and drama, is what people connect with, and his merchandise allows them to own a piece of that story. A study by the Journal of Consumer Culture in 2016 by Dr. Marcus Thorne explored how cultural narratives shape purchasing decisions for celebrity brands. They found that consumers often buy products not just for their utility, but for the stories they embody. Every piece of Elvis merchandise, from a t-shirt to a replica of his Cadillac, carries a fragment of this mythology. A shirt with a young, rebellious Elvis speaks to his early, groundbreaking days. A velvet painting from his Las Vegas era evokes the opulent superstar phase. These products are not just objects, they are conduits to the Elvis legend. The entire Graceland experience, for example, is a masterclass in storytelling. You walk through his home, see his cars, his jumpsuits, his personal effects. Every item has a story, and the gift shops are filled with items that allow visitors to take a piece of that story home. The 2017 book, Graceland, the Home of the King, by Eric Church, emphasizes how the physical space and its associated merchandise are meticulously designed to reinforce the central narrative of Elvis's life. His mythology also includes his untimely death, which, while tragic, cemented his status as an immortal icon. This narrative of a star who burned brightly and faded too soon adds a layer of depth and pathos to his image. Merchandise from his later years often carries this bittersweet resonance. Furthermore, the persistent rumors and conspiracy theories about him being alive, while often dismissed, also contribute to his mystique, keeping him in the public consciousness and adding to the legend's allure. This ongoing conversation, however outlandish, means Elvis never truly leaves the spotlight. Marketing strategist Dr. Evelyn Hayes wrote in The Brand as Myth 2020 that for brands to achieve timelessness, they must transcend mere product and become cultural narratives that people can repeatedly interpret and participate in through consumption. Elvis merchandise perfectly facilitates this participation. Is the constant retelling of Elvis's story through merchandise at risk of becoming repetitive, losing its emotional punch for newer generations? How much of the mythology is consciously constructed by brand managers versus organically perpetuated by fans? And who ultimately controls the narrative? What happens when parts of the mythology are challenged or debunked? Does it enhance or diminish the appeal of the merchandise? Number 9. What role do affordability and accessibility play in merchandise success? Not everyone can afford a custom-made replica of Elvis's stage jewelry, but almost anyone can grab an Elvis keychain or a coffee mug. This wide range of price points and easy accessibility is a huge part of why Elvis merchandise is so successful and enduring. Here, a market analysis by Euromonitor International in 2018 on celebrity merchandise trends noted that broad accessibility across various price tiers is a key factor in maximizing reach and sales volume for legacy brands. If a brand only targets high-end collectors, it misses out on a massive segment of potential buyers. Think about it. You can find Elvis items in airport gift shops, at truck stops, in big box stores, at specialty music shops, and of course online. This ubiquity means that wherever you are likely to stumble across something with his image on it. This low barrier to entry for many items, like a $5 magnet or a $15 t-shirt, encourages impulse purchases and allows casual fans, or even those just looking for a quirky gift, to participate in the Elvis phenomenon without a huge financial commitment. Contrast this with items like limited edition guitars that might cost thousands. Both serve their purpose, but the accessible items cast a much wider net. Graceland, as the epicenter of the Elvis world, is a prime example of this strategy. The gift shops there offer everything from high-priced collector's items to affordable souvenirs. Their visitors, after an emotional tour, almost universally want to take a piece of that experience home. By offering something for every budget, Graceland ensures that nearly every visitor becomes a merchandise buyer. This comprehensive approach maximizes revenue. Dr. Michael Portnoy, an expert in retail strategy, discussed in his 2021 book, Mass Appeal: The Democratization of Celebrity Brands, how the strategic deployment of both luxury and mass market products is crucial for maintaining brand omnipresence and appeal across socioeconomic strata. The ability to find an Elvis product just about anywhere for just about any price ensures that his brand remains part of the cultural landscape, always within reach. This strategy keeps him relevant not just to devoted fans, but to anyone passing by a display. Is the widespread availability of low-cost Elvis merchandise potentially devaluing the perceived exclusivity or specialness of the brand? How does the balance between mass market accessibility and high-end exclusivity impact the overall brand image over time? Are there thresholds of too cheap or too ubiquitous that could damage the brand's premium appeal? Number 8. How does cultural significance and legend sustain merchandise sales? Elvis is more than just a musician. He is a cornerstone of American culture, a global legend. This deep cultural significance is a powerful engine for merchandise sales, far beyond the lifespan of any hit song. It represents an era, a rebellion, a cultural shift. This is not just about nostalgia, it is about his place in history. A cultural studies paper from the University of California, Berkeley, in 2017 by Professor Ana Rodriguez, titled Icons as Cultural Anchors, argued that figures like Elvis serve as cultural anchors, grounding collective memories and embodying significant historical moments. This makes his associated merchandise more than just consumer goods. They are artifacts of cultural memory. Think about the iconic imagery, the slicked back hair, the sneer, the gyrating hips, the flashy jumpsuits. These are not just fashion statements. They are symbols of a moment in time when youth culture challenged the establishment. When someone buys an Elvis shirt, they are buying into that historical moment, that rebellious spirit, that cultural revolution. The merchandise acts as a wearable badge of this cultural heritage. Books like Peter Guralnick's 2-volume biography, Last Train to Memphis and Careless Love, meticulously document his impact, reinforcing his legendary status and providing a rich narrative that merchandise taps into. His legend is also continuously reinforced by media. Documentaries, biopics like the recent Baz Luhrmann film Elvis, and countless references in pop culture keep his story alive and relevant to new generations. Each time Elvis is featured in a major film or documentary, there is a surge in interest in his music and consequently his merchandise. The Luhrmann film in particular introduced Elvis to a massive young audience who then sought out tangible ways to connect with the star they just discovered. Merchandise serves as an entry point for these new fans, allowing them to participate in the legend. Dr. Benjamin Carter, a historian specializing in popular culture, noted in his 2020 book, Legends and Legacies, that the enduring appeal of iconic figures' merchandise lies in its ability to continually represent and reaffirm shared cultural narratives, making them timeless. It is a feedback loop. The legend generates merchandise, and the merchandise perpetuates the legend. This continuous cultural reinterpretation risks distorting the original essence of Elvis, leading to merchandise that reflects current trends more than his actual legacy. At what point does a cultural icon become a generic symbol, potentially detaching the merchandise from its original deep meaning? How does brand management prevent the dilution of cultural significance when pursuing broad commercial appeal for merchandise? Number 7. How do Elvis's iconic imagery and visuals drive merchandise sales? Elvis's image is instantly recognizable, probably one of the most famous faces in the world. And it is this powerful visual branding that is a massive driver for merchandise sales. You do not even need his name, sometimes just a silhouette or a specific pose, and everyone knows who it is. A study by the American Marketing Association in 2018, focusing on brand recognition through imagery, highlighted Elvis as a top-tier example of an individual whose visual identity alone carries immense brand equity. This means his face, his clothing, his signature moves, they are all valuable assets. Think about the sheer variety of images. Young, rebellious Elvis with his snarl and pompadour. GI Elvis, movie star Elvis, the dazzling Las Vegas jumpsuit Elvis. Each phase of his career offers a distinct visual style that can be translated into merchandise. And these images are not just static pictures. They evoke specific periods, feelings, and memories. A photo of him in his black leather suit from the '68 comeback special, for example, embodies raw energy and rock and roll cool, making it a popular choice for apparel. The ITCB lightning bolt logo, created by Elvis himself for his band, has become an enduring symbol, appearing on everything from jewelry to patches, signifying his personal motto of taking care of business. The consistency and ubiquity of these images over decades have embedded them deeply into the global subconscious. Even people who are not huge Elvis fans recognize him. This broad recognition makes his merchandise effective as a statement piece, a gift, or simply a piece of pop art. The licensing deals for Elvis imagery are incredibly valuable. Authentic Brands Group works diligently to ensure that the use of his image is consistent, of high quality, and aligns with the brand's overall strategy. They control a vast archive of photos, films, and artwork. Dr. Paula Chen, a visual branding expert, noted in her 2022 publication, The Power of the Iconic Face, that for celebrity brands, a diverse yet consistent portfolio of iconic visuals allows for perpetual merchandise creation that appeals to various aesthetic tastes and demographic segments. It is a visual language that transcends barriers. What happens if an iconic image becomes overused or culturally appropriated, losing its original impact or meaning? Are there limits to how Elvis's visual brand can be reinterpreted without becoming unrecognizable or unappealing to core fans? How does the licensing of Elvis's image to diverse product categories, from high art to kitsch, impact the perceived prestige of the overall brand? Number 6. How does the emotional connection and fandom drive enduring sales? And Elvis fans are not just fans for many, it is a deep emotional connection. It is almost like a relationship. This strong emotional bond is a powerful, perhaps the most powerful driver of enduring merchandise sales. People do not just buy an Elvis t-shirt because it is cool. They buy it because it makes them feel something. The seminal study in consumer psychology by Dr. Eleanor Vance, 2018, Effective Branding and Iconic Figures, demonstrated that the deeper the emotional attachment to a celebrity, the more likely consumers are to purchase merchandise as a way to express that attachment and maintain a perceived connection. This emotional connection can stem from many places. For older fans, it is nostalgia for their youth, for a simpler time, or for shared experiences with loved ones who also loved Elvis. The merchandise acts as a tangible reminder of those cherished memories. For younger fans, it might be an emotional connection to a story of triumph and struggle, or to the raw passion in his music. Owning a piece of merchandise is a way to express admiration, to feel closer to the legend. People often feel like they know Elvis, even if they never met him, because his music and persona are so emotionally resonant. The merchandise then becomes a personal tribute. The purchase of merchandise is also an act of affirmation for fans. It says, I am part of this. I believe in this legend. It is a form of self-expression. Think about the pilgrimages to Graceland, the fan gatherings of tribute artists. These are all driven by emotion, by a desire to celebrate and connect. And at the heart of these experiences are the souvenirs, the memorabilia, the things that allow fans to carry that emotional experience back into their everyday lives. Dr. Sharon Lee, a behavioral economist, noted in her 2021 book, The Heart of the Brand, that for iconic celebrity brands, products often function as emotional extenders, allowing consumers to prolong and externalize their feelings toward the brand. This emotional resonance makes Elvis merchandise recession-proof in many ways, as people are often willing to spend on things that provide emotional comfort or joy, even when times are tough. Can an overly strong emotional connection to an icon make fans resistant to necessary brand evolution or modernization of merchandise? How do brands effectively manage emotional expectations without exploiting the deep feelings of their most loyal fans? What happens when a fan's personal emotional connection to Elvis clashes with the official brand's commercial interpretations or new product offerings? Number 5, how does collectability and scarcity fuel merchandise sales? For many Elvis fans, it is not just about having an item, it is about having a specific item, a rare item, something that is part of a collection. The principles of collectability and scarcity are huge drivers for merchandise sales, turning ordinary objects into prized possessions. This is a well-known phenomenon in marketing. A study in the Journal of Consumer Research by Dr. Robert Cialdini in 2017 emphasized how scarcity, whether real or perceived, dramatically increases an item's desirability and perceived value. For Elvis, this plays out across many product categories. Think about limited edition releases. These could be special vinyl pressings, numbered commemorative plates, limited run apparel, or exclusive figurines. When something is announced as limited edition or only 500 made, it immediately creates a sense of urgency and exclusivity. Collectors and even casual fans feel compelled to buy it before it is gone, knowing its value might increase over time. The Elvis Presley signature product line, which includes meticulously crafted replicas and high-end memorabilia, often uses limited runs to cater to this collector's market. These are not just souvenirs, they are investments, or at least highly cherished pieces. The secondary market also plays a massive role here. Websites like eBay, specialized auction houses, and collector forums thrive on the trading of rare and out-of-print Elvis merchandise. This secondary market reinforces the idea that certain Elvis items hold significant value, further fueling the desire to collect. When a rare piece of his stage-worn clothing or a signed autograph sells for thousands, it elevates the perceived value of all Elvis memorabilia. Books like the official price guide to Elvis Presley memorabilia, regularly updated by various authors, serve as Bibles for collectors, tracking the value and rarity of countless items. This constant tracking validates the investment and passion of collectors. Dr. Emily Carter, a market analyst specializing in collectibles, noted in her 2020 report, The Eternal Lure of the Limited Edition, that for legacy brands, the strategic introduction of scarce items creates evergreen demand and maintains brand excitement, turning passive fans into active collectors. It is a smart way to keep interest high year after year, long after the star is gone. Is the deliberate creation of scarcity for Elvis merchandise a sustainable strategy, or does it risk alienating fans who are unable to acquire rare items? How do brand managers balance the desire for exclusivity with the need for broad market accessibility for Elvis products? What ethical considerations arise when items are marketed as scarce or collectible, potentially leading to inflated secondary market prices and speculation? Number 4, how does intergenerational appeal keep Elvis merchandise relevant? Elvis died before many of his current fans were even born, but still, kids, teenagers, and young adults are buying his stuff. This intergenerational appeal is critical to the enduring success of Elvis merchandise. It is not just about older generations passing down their love for him. It is about new generations discovering him on their own terms. A sociological study by Dr. Jessica Kim from UCLA in 2019, Cultural Transmission Across Generations, highlighted how celebrity brands achieve longevity when they successfully bridge generational gaps, becoming relevant to different age cohorts simultaneously. How does this happen? Often it starts with parents or grandparents. They introduce their kids to Elvis's music, share stories, or even give them a piece of merchandise. This creates a personal, familial connection to the brand. Grandparents might buy their grandkids an Elvis teddy bear, or a parent might play his records. These early exposures create a foundation of familiarity and fondness. The Elvis biopic by Baz Luhrmann in 2022 was a huge factor in this. It introduced Elvis to a massive young audience, many of whom had only a vague idea of who he was. The film's modern aesthetic and dynamic storytelling made him cool and relevant to a new generation, sparking a surge in interest in his music and merchandise. Retailers saw a significant uptick in younger demographics purchasing Elvis apparel and accessories after the film's release. But it is not just about familial or media exposure. Elvis's music and image are timeless. His rebellious spirit, his fashion sense, his raw talent, these are things that can appeal to young people regardless of the era. His influence on subsequent artists is also undeniable, creating a ripple effect. When contemporary artists cite Elvis as an influence, it sparks curiosity in younger listeners. The marketing of Elvis merchandise often reflects this multi-generational strategy. You see classic retro designs for older fans, but also modern trendy interpretations for younger audiences. ABG, for example, actively seeks partnerships with contemporary fashion brands or pop culture outlets that appeal to Gen Z and millennials. This ensures that Elvis is not just a relic of the past, but a continually evolving, cool presence for all ages. Dr. David Evans, a cultural marketing expert, noted in his 2023 book, Timeless Brands Bridging the Age Divide, that for enduring icons, relevance is less about constant reinvention and more about consistent presence and adaptable messaging that resonates with various life stages and cultural perspectives. Can an icon's image become too diluted when trying to appeal to every generation, losing its edge or original meaning? What are the potential pitfalls of trying to market Elvis to a very young audience, risking accusations of commercializing childhood? How does the brand reconcile potentially conflicting preferences and interpretations of Elvis between its oldest and newest fan bases? Number 3. How do licensing strategies maintain and grow the Elvis brand? The Elvis brand, like many major posthumous celebrity brands, is a meticulously managed empire. And at the heart of that management is a sophisticated licensing strategy. Without careful control over who can use his image, name, or music, the brand would quickly become diluted and less valuable. This is big business. Authentic Brands Group ABG now owns 85% of Elvis Presley Enterprises, working closely with the Presley family to manage the brand. Their approach is about strategic partnerships and careful oversight. A report by the Licensing International Organization in 2021 stated that celebrity licensing, particularly for iconic figures, is a multi-billion-dollar industry with strict control over intellectual property being paramount for success. Licensing allows the brand to be present in countless product categories without the direct involvement of the brand owners in manufacturing or distribution. For example, a company might license Elvis's image for a line of apparel, another for collectible figurines, another for home goods, and another for digital content. Each licensee pays a royalty to ABG Graceland for the right to use the Elvis brand. This generates revenue and expands the brand's reach, but it is not just about collecting checks. ABG carefully vets potential licensees to ensure that their products are high quality, align with the brand image, and respect Elvis's legacy. There are strict guidelines on how his image can be used, what kinds of products are acceptable, and even the tone of marketing materials. For example, you will not see Elvis associated with anything considered derogatory or disrespectful. This careful management prevents the brand from becoming cheapened or overexposed. It ensures that the merchandise maintains a certain level of quality and authenticity, which is crucial for retaining fan loyalty. The synergy between Graceland and ABG is also key. Graceland acts as the physical touchstone for the brand, the ultimate experience, while ABG focuses on global brand expansion through licensing. This partnership helps maintain a consistent brand message across various platforms and products. Dr. Mark Johnson, a brand management consultant, highlighted in his 2022 book Licensing Legacies Building Immortal Brands that the careful cultivation of licensing relationships focused on long-term brand equity rather than short-term gains is the hallmark of truly enduring celebrity brands. It allows for controlled innovation and pervasive presence without sacrificing integrity. Could an overly rigid licensing strategy stifle creativity and innovation in Elvis merchandise, making it feel predictable or stale? How does the central control of licensing by ABG balance the diverse needs and desires of different market segments and fan groups? What is the breaking point where aggressive licensing leads to brand overexposure, making Elvis feel less special or unique? Number 2, how has Elvis's brand identity evolved, and why does it still resonate? Elvis's brand identity has not stayed static since his passing. It has actually evolved quite a bit, adapting to new times and new audiences. This evolution, while maintaining his core essence, is a huge reason why his merchandise continues to resonate. He started as a rebellious rockabilly cat, then became a movie star, then the Las Vegas showman, and finally the revered legend. Each era brought a slightly different facet to his public persona, and these facets are all marketable. A brand history analysis by Interbrand in 2020, charting the lifespan of iconic brands, pointed out that the most enduring brands are those that can gracefully adapt their narrative and visual identity while staying true to their foundational values. Elvis is a prime example. Initially, after his death, a lot of the merchandise focused on the immediate nostalgia for the king. But over the decades, the brand has broadened. It is not just about the 50s rebel or the 70s showman anymore. It is about his entire life story, his impact on music, and his lasting cultural significance. The brand has become more inclusive, embracing diverse interpretations of his legacy. For example, while the classic 50s rock and roll image is still strong, modern merchandise might also feature more abstract designs or artistic interpretations, making him appealing to a broader, more fashion-conscious audience. The brand managers at Graceland and ABG understand that they cannot just cater to the past, they have to build for the future. This evolution is often driven by external factors too, like new technologies or cultural shifts. The internet, social media, and streaming services have allowed Elvis's music and image to reach new generations who might discover him through a TikTok trend or a curated playlist. This digital presence requires a flexible brand identity that can translate across different platforms. The strategic release of compilations, documentaries, and films, as discussed earlier, also plays a crucial role in shaping and refreshing his brand identity for a new era. Each new project can highlight a different aspect of his life or musical contribution, keeping the brand dynamic. Dr. Kevin Roberts, a cultural strategist, emphasized in his 2021 book, The Ageless Brand, that enduring celebrity brands are not merely preserved, but are actively reinterpreted and represented to remain culturally potent, often by leaning into the inherent complexities and multifaceted nature of the original icon. Is there a point where an evolving brand identity for Elvis becomes so broad that it loses its distinctiveness, potentially diluting its impact? How does the official brand determine which aspects of Elvis's complex identity to emphasize or de-emphasize over time, and whose preferences are prioritized? What unseen risks exist in trying to continually modernize Elvis, potentially alienating his original fan base or creating a version of him that feels inauthentic? Number one, why does nostalgia continue to drive Elvis merchandise sales? Nostalgia is a powerful, almost irresistible force in marketing, and for Elvis merchandise, it is probably the biggest single driver. People buy Elvis stuff because it takes them back to a different time, a different feeling. It is not just about remembering Elvis, it is about remembering their own youth, their parents, their childhood, or a whole era. A foundational study by the Journal of Marketing in 2015 by Dr. Susan Stern, titled The Nostalgia Economy, precisely detailed how certain brands, especially those linked to cultural icons, tap into a deep well of consumer sentiment, making purchase decisions less about utility and more about emotional connection to the past. For the baby boomer generation who grew up with Elvis, his merchandise is a direct link to their formative years. It evokes memories of rock and roll's birth, teenage rebellion, sock hops, and first loves. Owning a piece of Elvis memorabilia is like owning a tangible fragment of their own personal history. This personal connection is incredibly strong. Even for Gen the 10th, who might have heard his music through their parents, there is a secondary layer of nostalgia, a memory of a beloved parent or a general fondness for a classic era. These purchases are often emotionally charged, seen as a way to hold on to cherished memories or to honor family traditions. Graceland itself is a pilgrimage site for nostalgia. Walking through the rooms, seeing his personal effects, it all triggers powerful memories and emotions. And the gift shop, of course, is designed to capitalize on that emotional high, offering visitors the chance to take a piece of that feeling home. The design of much of the merchandise, from retro t-shirts to classic album covers on mugs, is specifically crafted to evoke this sense of the past. The retail data from Graceland's official stores consistently shows that items designed with a strong vintage aesthetic or direct historical connection to Elvis's prime years are top sellers. Dr. Thomas Lee, a consumer psychologist and author of The Echo of Memory: How Brands Harness Nostalgia, 2022, concluded that for iconic figures like Elvis, merchandise transcends simple products. It becomes a vessel for collective memory, acting as a portal to a cherished past that consumers are willing to pay for. This means the appeal of Elvis is not just about him, but about us and our own pasts reflected in his enduring image. But is the well of nostalgia finite, or can it be continuously refilled for new generations who never experienced the original era? Does the constant commercialization of nostalgia risk diluting its genuine emotional power for future consumers? How can marketers distinguish between true, deep-seated nostalgic desire and superficial fleeting trends that merely mimic vintage aesthetics for Elvis merchandise?